there and welcome inside the Red Mile Rundown. I am your host, Johnny Stone. Please bear with me on this episode. I have decided to have a bit of a head cold, and it's pretty awesome to try a podcast with a head cold, but we'll get through this nonetheless. Red Mile Rundown, episode 72, of course, alongside me, as always, from flamesnation.ca, it's Robert Munich. How we doing, Robert?
I'm doing better than you, apparently.
Yeah.
Shout out to you for doing the podcast. So, I mean, you are an absolute warrior. You're like a hockey player playing on a broken leg. You know, this is incredibly impressive. You're like Bill Barocco. Didn't that guy score at the Didn't he score like the Stanley Cup winning goal at the broken leg?
Yeah. Wouldn't have it any other way. Nothing like sneezing 100 times in a day while you're trying to drive around for work and get kids off to school and stuff, and you're just sneezing doing the whole. That's great. It's a fun time. It's what we battle through though as adults, and you just get things done either way. Robert, we're post-trade deadline. These games, they mean so much to so little things, and other things mean so much more to other people, and they're winning some, they're losing some. We saw on this past few days, the Flames give us a really, really good effort. They played an okay game against Vancouver and blow them out, and then they absolutely get the doors blown off them Monday night in Denver. How do you make sense of the last 2, 3, 4 games the Flames have played? Because they've been quite different.
Boy, did they get humbled on Monday against the Avalanche, hey?
Yeah, that was one. It was a wild game. 4 minutes in, the game was over.
It was the first time in 6 years that the Flames have allowed 9 goals in a game, and the last time it happened was in actually might have been more than that. It might have been 8 years actually. They were playing the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2018. I don't know if you remember that. They lost 9-1. James Neal scored the only goal. I posted on Twitter the other day. So
yeah.
These games, they don't come around very often for the Calgary Flames. But yeah, they certainly got humbled after a very successful, in their eyes, homestand where they went 5-0-1. Picked up 11 of 12 points. Which, you know what? Like, going back to that homestand, I know there's a lot of people who were a little upset by the results just because they're winning in the draft lottery odds and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, even terrible teams will go through stretches where they win a bunch of games in a row. It happens. I mean, we saw it in the month of December this year. The Calgary Flames, like, they still have good NHL players, and if they get good goaltending, they're going to be competitive on most nights. So the fact that they did go on that heater there doesn't really surprise me, in the sense that, like, bad teams, they can still win hockey games too, but it's the way they're doing it that's a little surprising. It's, some of these veteran players, like Ryan Strome has been fantastic, and Ole Matt has been fantastic, and Olofsson's contributing a little bit, and you're getting some good games from some of your young players, like Matt Gritton's been great, and Parek's progressing, and Brstevich has been good, and Coronado and Frost have been quite good. Like, it's kind of crazy the way it's happening, but you know what? I think this Colorado game is a little bit of an indication of what we're going to see between now and the end of the season. And overall, I'm not too worried about them winning a bunch of games between now and the end of the season. So, yeah. At the same time, like, was it kind of fun, though, to see some wins during a miserable year? I mean, I might be crazy for saying that, but it kind of was a little bit enjoyable to watch these guys win, especially on home ice in front of the fans.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you look at the home and away splits the Flames team has had this year. They've actually been pretty decent at home, right? Like, on the road, they've only had like a 300 win percentage. Like, they've been absolutely brutal on the road. The worst team in the league on the road. And so you watch these games at home, though, on that homestand, Robert, and you watched a couple of circumstances, and I'm not gonna just excuse other teams, but you got a couple of games back-to-back where the night before their opponents played in Edmonton, the higher match game, the more anticipated game, the game that means more to these guys, like the Florida Panthers, that's the Stanley Cup rematch. The Bolts, they go into Edmonton, they're trying to prove something. Kucherov's on a mission to beat McDavid for the scoring rate. So there's things that are there intangible. Then they come to Calgary on the end of a road trip on back-to-back nights, that are a little bit more ripe for the picking. We would call those scheduled losses if it was reversed, with Calgary coming in that situation. And then that game against Anaheim, they kind of backed into that win. They were able to get the upper hand in a skills competition. They backed into that win against Vancouver because that's how bad Vancouver is. God, that was not a inspired group coming in from Vancouver to play that game on Saturday. That was horrendous. and then they go on the road and you see them get humbled themselves. So kind of a mixed bag is what we've watched over the last week or so from the Flames. But to your point, Robert, in the moment watching that game against Tampa Bay or against Florida or against Anaheim, when the Flames scored, the crowd was into it, the atmosphere was electric, and it was fun to watch. And every so often, you want to see a win. And so it was fun to watch those games. And then you watch them go actually get humbled, like you mentioned there, Robert, in Denver against the Avalanche, and you think, oh, okay, we still have a long way to go before we're a competitive group, even though we just won a few games. There's a difference between winning a few games and being a competitive group, and I think this road trip's going to show all of those who run Team Tank or doubters or any of those kind of people, hey, this is still a team that's rebuilding. This is still a team that doesn't have the skill. For heaven's sakes, their leading goal scorer has 18 goals. That should tell you where this group is at here. So that game against Colorado, it was fun to watch the Avalanche snap that puck around, but man, it was brutal to watch from a Flames perspective.
And I hope Craig Conroy and the management team take a little bit of inspiration from what we saw from the Avalanche on Monday, and just really prioritize speed as part of the future of this team's identity and the way they play hockey. Because you go and take a look at like those NHL edge numbers, and the Calgary Flames are by far, in a way, in last place when it comes to speed bursts between 20 and 22 miles per hour and speed bursts over 22 miles per hour. Like they could not be further away from even like the 31st place team. Like Jason Gregor had the numbers. I'll maybe pull them up later in the episode here, but man, yeah, the Avs just completely skated them into the ground. Like they made it look like it was an NHL team against like an ECHL team from a skating perspective. It was tough to watch.
And they played at the pace too. It's like it's not just skating speed either. Like that puck gets snapped around and guys motor their way to the other side. Like it's incredible to watch that power play early in that hockey game. Yeah, they got a 5-on-3 as well, but you watch that power play early and that puck is just zipping around. So it's a dangerous team. It's a team that built the right way. They built through the draft. They've supplemented through some nice trades that they've made, and they're a Stanley Cup contender. So there's a lot of lessons I think the Flames can take from that loss. And it's not just that they lost to the Avalanche. It's how good the Avalanche play, the style that they play, the kind of players that they've built around to be successful, and a head coach that understands what kind of players he has and how to play them in certain situations. Like how many times did we see that fourth line get an offensive zone start and they were put in the right spot to be successful, and they gave the Flames fits all night long, right? You have Malinsky take the place of Makar when he goes out with an injury. Just players know how to play in that system. They've built it the right way. The Avalanche, that's such a good hockey team over there. And so the Flames can learn a lot from what the Avalanche have done, have built, and I really hope that the Flames in a couple of years here can be as exciting as the Avalanche were, because that was a lot of fun to watch last night from the Avalanche point of view.
I have those numbers here.
Let's hear these awesome numbers.
So 20 to 22 mile per hour speed bursts. The Calgary Flames are the only team in the NHL to have less than 1,000, and this was from March 26th, so this is a few days ago. But at the time, they were the only team in the NHL to have less than 1,000 of them. So the Flames had 990 20 to 22 mile per hour speed bursts. The next closest team was the Boston Bruins with 1,125. So the Flames are in dead last by a significant margin. And then when it comes to 22 mile per hour speed bursts and more, the Flames have 23. The Predators have 28. Every other team in the league has at least 50. So like the Calgary Flames, according to these numbers, are by far and away the slowest team in the NHL. And quite honestly, this dates back years. Like this goes back to like the lockout, in the Iginla era. This team has never been fast. I think the only time I can ever remember thinking the Flames were a fast team was in 2004 when they acquired all those speedsters like the Sean Donovans of the world and the Ville Niemanns, and they played a pretty fast up tempo style of game. Like it was very defensive and very physical, but they could skate. That's probably the last time I ever remember thinking to myself, like, oh, this is a fast team. And I would love to see Conroy just really prioritize that. Wouldn't it be fun to watch a team like the Colorado Avalanche on a nightly basis in a few years? Like that would be very exciting to me.
Yeah, and you go to the examples that I continue to go back to: Montreal, San Jose. Those are all teams that are built and have speed and play with pace. Like, that's such an exciting style of hockey to watch. And there's some teams that have to play the more defensive style, and they still get the job. Like Boston does, plays a more defensive style, but they still can get the job done. But these up tempo teams, like, they're just so fun to watch. Watching Makar zip around, and it's effortless, like by McKinnon and Martin Natchez. He's just so good at the puck. Like, it's just incredible to watch. I'm with you there, Robert. Like, those numbers are shocking in a bad way, and you're just like, okay, I guess we have a long way to go. And it's more than just picking the best player available. It's developing these guys, developing those skills, developing the opportunities to put these guys in those positions to be successful, because they have guys coming that do have decent foot speed. But how do you get the most out of those players now? And you gotta give other players with them that can also feed off of those opportunities and those skill sets. It's quite a long way to go for the Flames here.
Yeah, and you just got to make it a priority. Like, when you're making trades and you're signing free agents, you got to really like it, and this is only if the Flames want to play that style. I mean, maybe Craig Conroy wants to build this into like a bigger, more physical team. Who knows? We don't really know his overall plan. But if they want to become that fast skill team, they really got to prioritize it. They can't just acquire random players or average players and just think, okay, well, they're going to fit into what we're doing here. Like, they really got to focus on, okay, who are the faster guys in this league, and when are they going to become available, and how can we target them? That's what I'd love to see them do, because that's exactly what the Avalanche do. I think they put a huge emphasis on speed and skill, and it's paid off for them. I mean, they're a 100-point team. It feels like, the last 7 or 8 years here. So yeah, even like that playoff series in 2019, it was just so obvious. Like, they were so much faster than the Flames. And the Flames won the division that year. They won the Western Conference. Yeah. And they still got skated in the ground. So yeah, I'd love to see them be a fast team and make it a priority. That would be fun.
That was the arrival of the Avalanche. That team was good then. They're good now. If they don't win the cup this year, I would say it's almost a failure by the Avalanche. They do not win it all this year. They're built for it, and they're so good. They're so good. It's incredible to watch. Is there any other lessons from this Avalanche game that you would take away, Robert, other than how good the Avalanche were, and that's what the Flames should become? Because you look at this game last night, and you watched how they played, you watched how they were successful, you watched how they took advantage of opportunities and shut the Flames right down. Like, what else can we learn from this Avalanche team other than just, hey, build that way?
That's probably a better question for the coaching staff. I'm sure they could definitely take some things away from that game. But from a fan's perspective, I mean, we're at the end of the season. The Flames are a bad team on paper. They played a juggernaut in the Avalanche. I mean, these things are going to happen when you're such a bad team, when you've traded away your veteran players and all that kind of stuff. So for me personally, no, there's nothing I'd take from that game. I mean, if you really want to reach, I would say I like the fourth line. I thought Klapka and Hoffman were skating pretty well. Even Beecher had a pretty decent game. But I mean, your fourth line on a 28th ranked team is your best story in a 9-2 loss. I mean, that's the definition of reaching right there.
What have you thought about Hoffman since he's been acquired from the Rangers? Because I've quite liked him in the couple of games we've seen from him. He's got 2 points in 2 games. He's been engaged. He's been physical. What do you make of his game overall here?
Yeah, he's been fine. Nothing really stands out to me about his game in terms of a skill set or a quality that is high end or elite. It just seems like he's good at a bunch of different things. I mean, his skating seems kind of average. He's not the most physical guy right now. You definitely have to like the point production, putting up a goal and assist. Was it 2 goals, right? Vancouver and Colorado.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's great, but one of them was the 7th goal in a blowout. The other one was the Flames' 2nd goal in a blowout, or their first goal. So I mean,
poor Hoffman.
It's been 2 games. I'd like to see more before I really hone in and get an opinion on the guy. But hey, I mean, good on him. Yeah, scoring a couple goals on the fourth line. That's impressive work in the NHL, no matter what state your team's in. I would just like to see him be more physical. That was kind of his calling card coming to Calgary, was that he's pretty aggressive and he can lay the body and he can be a good forechecker. I haven't really seen that a whole heck of a lot yet, but still plenty of time to see that eventually from him.
One guy that decided to take to the microphone after that Vancouver game and kind of ruffle the feathers of the Flame fans, and then the Flame fans kind of give it back to him after last night's game against the Avalanche. Blake Coleman's comments about his mantra to kind of stick it to team tank and how the Flames aren't, they kind of want to stick it to that team tank. What do you make of those comments? What side do you fall in on? Because I at the time I didn't think much of them, but a lot of people on Twitter and social media were talking about them, and didn't really get the reaction I think Blake Coleman wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was kind of joking around a little bit. Like, here's the thing. The way I view it is that, these guys, they're NHL players, they're professional athletes, they're the ultimate competitors, and they are built to only do one thing, and that is to win hockey games. So from Coleman's perspective, excuse me, from a guy like Coleman's perspective and Rasmus Andersson, who made similar comments last season, I can understand where they're coming from because they play the game to win. They don't play the game to lose. So there's that. But then there's also there's a bit of kind of ignorance from the players when they make comments like that, because they're almost making it sound like, there's a subsection of Flames fans who just hate the team and just want them to lose in general, which is just could not be further from the truth. The reason why people want the team to tank right now is because they're completely out of the playoffs. They want to draft as high as possible to bring in elite talent that can help this team for the next 12 to 15 years. And this is a team that's been stuck in the mushy middle forever. And this fan base is just, they're starving for some star power in this market because we haven't had it since Johnny Gaudreau left. So players need to understand that. And I don't think Rasmus Andersson understood that. I don't think Blake Coleman understands that. I think their comments are kind of coming from a position of ignorance and kind of burying their head in the sand and not truly understanding the rationale and the reasons why fans feel this way. And that part kind of pisses me off. It's like, dude, take the time to understand why these people feel this way, because a lot of the people on Team Tank, they're the biggest diehard fans of this team, and they want the ultimate success for this group, and they want to watch a team that can have consistent success for 7 to 12 years with a new core group of players. Like, why players don't understand that, I think is a little silly. But like I said, at the same time, their goal is to always win, and I appreciate that. That's why they're professional athletes, and we're fans sitting on our couch watching them. But at the same time, it's like, okay, can you not give yourself a little bit of a history lesson here when it comes to the team and why people feel this way? It's then those comments that's why I think people were pissed off. It's because, dude, what are you talking about here? You don't truly understand what this fan base has gone through. And yeah, just that lack of understanding and ignorance that kind of, I wouldn't say pissed me off, but I'm just like, dude, come on, you don't have to say stuff like that. So that's kind of how I felt about it.
I felt first one for sure, I'm like, whatever. I kind of joked past it, and then I kept reading people online about it, and I thought about it a little bit, and I'm like, I come from it kind of two different angles here. One, this Flames have been out of this since January, right? This has been a death march, and he gets
since November 1st. They've been out of it.
Yeah, I guess true. Yeah, it's just so. There's only so many things you can say at every single game when you're asked the same few questions, and it's a death march to the end. You kind of know your fate. It's been since the trade deadline. They just and they get a couple of nice wins there, and they're feeling really good about themselves. And as a professional athlete, they should. As a pro hockey player, they should, because that's what they're being paid to do, is win hockey games. I think what he was trying to say came off not what he was really trying to say, kind of a thing, but it's again goes back to your point, Robert. It's you've got to know the tone. You can't be tone deaf to the moment, to what's happening around you, to this franchise. You'd think Blake Coleman is a smart enough hockey player to realize what's going on here in the big picture. Yeah, he doesn't care because he's paid to win hockey games now, and 3 or 4 years down the road really doesn't really affect him when it comes to his Flames career, unless he's signing back here for another 6-year contract. So it felt a little disingenuous too from him. It's just okay, you don't need to anger the fans. You didn't really need to comment on it. Yes, you've been asked 1,000 questions since the trade deadline, and a lot of them are the same questions, and you kind of want to relish and celebrate your wins, but that's what the locker room's for. Like, celebrate those wins as a group in the locker room, and let the fans be fans. That's my biggest thing when it comes to, like, I'm going to take some shots at people here, professional athletes or media members or other people on social media. It's just like, let fans be fans, how fans want to fan. And it's just like, we don't need to be talked down to by the players in the room. We know what the players are there for. Players should know what the fans are there for. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want the ultimate success for the hockey team. And yes, congratulations, Blake Coleman. You guys beat the worst team in the National Hockey League who barely showed up on Saturday night. And then you get the doors blown off of you. So those comments now take on a whole nother life of themselves because people are like, well, what about your mantra now, Blake? You're on the road and you got the doors blown off. And it creates a lot of noise where there doesn't need to be noise. So these guys that are all trained to talk to the media and the professional athletes, great. It's all that's great. Just kind of sometimes just got to take a step back and just give us the generic answer and move on with your day, because it was kind of unneeded noise from Blake Coleman. The fans kind of got a lot of runway around that and now people are mad at Blake Coleman for no reason. And it's just like, okay, it's a little tone deaf here, Blake. Let's realize the situation and let the fans be the fans.
Yeah, and the comments, last year they came from Rasmus Anderson, who was a fan favorite who had been around for a while. And then these comments come from Blake Coleman, who's been a really great member of this team for a long time. And it's like, why would you even say stuff like that? Like you guys are so beloved in this community and people respect everything you've done. And then you come out and irk, a very large segment of the fan base who are anybody who's on Team Tank is extremely rational with their thoughts, in the sense that all they want is a winner. And it's just like, why guys like Anderson and Coleman don't understand that? Like, if anything, the players should be the ones who understand it the most, because they're the ones that have been doing all the losing and have been the ones on these mediocre teams. It's like, don't you want high-end talent? Like, you look at Blake Coleman. He's a guy who benefited from the Tampa Bay Lightning picking high.
Yep.
They get Steven Stamkos first overall. They get Victor Hedman third overall. They get Jonathan Drouin third overall or second overall, I forget what it was, and they end up flipping him for Miguel Sergachev, who they end up winning Stanley Cups with. It's like, you do need to pick high in order to build these teams, and Blake Coleman should know that because he's the one who benefited from it, winning 2 Stanley Cups with the team that did it. So it's just like, dude, what are you talking about? So yeah, it's just, once again, I think it's a position of ignorance. It's a position from these players where they don't look into why people feel this way, and they don't do any research into the history of the team, and they just don't get it because they don't put the time and effort to understand why people are coming from it from this standpoint. So, part of me is like, okay, whatever, it's a throwaway comment after a big win, who gives a crap? And then the other part of me is like, you could be a little smarter than that, and you could be a little more informed with your opinions and what you're speaking about. And it's just like, the fans pay your salary, dude. Like, treat them with respect. Like Rasmus Anderson and Coleman, with these comments, it's like, we're the ones that pay your salary. The people that go to the games and buy merch and buy food and parking and watch the team on TV and watch on radio and all this kind of stuff. We're the ones that are paying your salary. So, be a little more respectful at the same time.
Yeah, he could have said similar and been a lot more respectful while saying it. And just sometimes these athletes, man, I know they're humans too, but sometimes you just need to be the generic answer and move on with the day, because that at the end of the day is probably better for him, better for the fans, and better for the message. So
I'd love to hear the media follow up with a question.
Yeah, please. That's why I put media in my answers. Like, sometimes we just be a little bit more hard, ask the hard questions, ask more thoughtful questions. Like my biggest thing with the media, and I love the media people. That's why I do podcasting. That's why I broadcast stuff. I enjoy it. But sometimes I just think that after these games, like, they're just lobbing these softball questions to these athletes and giving these athletes just time to just talk, just for the sake of talking. And that's how you get comments like we got from Blake Coleman, like we got from Rasmus Anderson. They're just talking to talk. Ask them something more thoughtful. Ask them something more hard hitting, and then follow up on it and make a conversation. Let the fans in a little bit more. Ask these guys that are going to let the fans in a little bit. I don't care what Blake Coleman's feelings are after a 7-3 win against Vancouver on a Saturday night. Ask him something more in depth. Ask him something more important, and follow up on it so we get more insight to who Blake Coleman is, how he thought about certain things, and maybe help us learn more about the game. Like, even as a diehard fan and a longtime hockey watcher, I still learn things every week. Listen, guys like Sidney Crosby, he still teaches me things all the time. Blake Coleman could do the same thing in this area if he's asked the right questions. And it's just like, we don't need to have these softball questions. Let's get a little bit more. Let's get the journalism going again.
Yeah, and then like from the specific example of what Coleman said the other day, it would have been nice just to hear a follow up of something along the lines of, "Do you understand why a portion of the fan base feels this way?" And then actually have a bit of a conversation about it. Now, I know, once again, Coleman kind of, he was smiling, and I think he was kind of playing it off as a bit of a joke, and maybe the guys in the scrum wanted to move on from it. But at the same time, I actually think that would be an interesting conversation.
Agreed.
To hear from the players, like, their perspective on this. It's like, okay, you see, a large portion of the fan base, they want the team to lose to get the high draft pick. I mean, like, number one, how does that make you feel as a player who, you're going out there to win hockey games all the time? And then maybe follow up with, well, do you understand where they're coming from? Do you have like any idea why they're thinking the way they are? And then that can kind of spur off maybe a couple interesting quotes and interesting conversation. It would be nice to kind of get a little bit of a follow up on stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. We are 13 games removed from the trade deadline now, Robert. I figure it's a good time, or you figure it's a good time, that we check in on these new guys that are coming in here and see how they're kind of performing. Because the Flames, they brought some guys in who felt like throwaways, but all of a sudden are these star athletes on the Flames and leading this team. Like Ryan Strome with his 10 points in the 13 games. Ole Mata, the same thing. You got Victor Olofsson getting 5 points in the 12 games he's played since joining the Flames. These new guys that they've brought in aren't really so much as throwaways anymore, are they? They're kind of veteran leaders that have been doing a very good job. What you make of the guys that have come in since the trade deadline here, Robert?
I am honestly, I'm shocked that they are playing as well as they are and the team is playing as well as they are, because I remember saying, once you trade Rasmus Andersson and maybe Nazem Kadri, like, because it was unknown as to who exactly was going to get dealt at the time, but I was like, if you trade 2 or 3 veteran players off this lineup, like, there's no way they're going to be winning hockey games. Like, there's just no way. And they have just completely proved me wrong. I am honestly shocked to see them winning as much as they are. But like I said, these guys, they're proud NHLers. There's lots of experience. There's good hockey players on the roster. So you are going to win games. But, since the Rasmus Andersson trade, they've won 10 games, which I'm actually pretty surprised by. They have a 462 points percentage, 24 points in their last 26 games. And, it doesn't sound great, but when you look at the roster, it's actually kind of impressive for them to do what they're doing. I thought that once Anderson and then definitely after Kadri and Weegar were traded, I thought to myself, from now until the end of the season, this team will be right near the very bottom with the Vancouver Canucks. They're not going to win very many games, but they've played well above expectations. And right now, the Blackhawks, Rangers, Golden Knights, Leafs, Panthers, and Canucks have all been worse than the Flames since the Rasmus Andersson trade. And I didn't see that happening for Vegas. I didn't see it happening for Toronto, Florida. I could see it for Chicago, New York, and Vancouver. But, there's some teams that the Flames are ahead of that I'm actually kind of surprised by. And a lot of it is on the backs of, guys like you said, Ryan Strome, 10 points in 13 games. Ole Mata, 10 points in 13 games. He had 2 points all season with the Utah. No, sorry. He had 1 point in 22 games with the Utah Mammoth. And obviously he's getting more of an opportunity here, but Ole Mata has never been a point producer really at the NHL level. I mean, 18 points in 70 games, 18 points in 72, 23 and 78. 10 points in 13 games. It's right around like a 60-point pace over 82 games from Ole Mata.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild. So, I mean, part of me is like good on these guys. I mean, they're completely taking advantage of their opportunities. Throw Zach Whitecloud in the mix, who's been, I think, very solid as a member of the Flames. So yeah, part of me is like, good on them. The other part of me is like, this is insane. Like, why the hell is this happening right now? Like, this couldn't happen at a worse time for this team. But like I mentioned before, these guys, they're paid to go out and work their ass off, and they're paid to go out and try to win games. So I respect the work ethic, and I respect that these guys are putting in an effort, but it is coming at a rough time. It really is. But good on those vets, man. I did not see this coming whatsoever.
I love the portion of social media to like, did Conroy big brain this and he's just smarter than everybody else? Like he exchanged these guys for better players. And it's just
one of the Flames players on the Amazon broadcast, I think he was getting interviewed. I think it was Coleman before the game, and he said, yeah, like all the boys in the locker room are joking that we were buyers at the deadline.
Yeah.
That was a great line. I thought that was hilarious.
Like, this Ryan Strome that the Flames have reminds me of the Ryan Strome in the early days when he was in New York playing for the Rangers. He's engaged, he's skating, he's everywhere, he's smiling, he's a leader, and he's just pulling guys along here. Like, if anyone predicted 10 points in 13 games for Ryan Strome, they need to be, handsomely compensated for their ability to think like that. Ole Mata has been the biggest surprise in the league for me since the trade deadline, just based on what you've seen from this guy. He was touted as this stay-at-home defenseman who can lock guys down and be a guy who's counted on to be a defensive stalwart. Now this guy's a two-way defenseman who's ripping pucks and scoring goals, and he's playmaking. Like this guy is incredible. And it's just like, you just go down the list of these guys, like Victor Olofsson showing off his shot a lot. He's got only the 5 points. Both of his goals have been tremendous rippers. And just like, these guys have been given an opportunity almost on a new lease in their NHL careers, in the case of Strome and Matt in particular. And they've run with it. They've absolutely taken on that mantra, and they've ran with it. And good on them for just the competitive side of things and that part of the conversation. This is exactly what you want from veteran players when they come into a lineup and you've added them to your group. You want them to be a leader by example, by how they're approaching games, by how they're playing in games. And so for that, in that instance, that's great for a guy like Matt Bay-Gridden to see, or Connor Jerry to see the work ethic these veterans have brought to the team. In this instance in particular, where the Flames are trying to get a top 3 pick, fans are hoping, you're just kind of like, okay, boys, slow it down a little bit, would you? Just slow it down a little bit. And it's fun to watch them play, even though we want that draft pick to be, a top 3 pick. It's fun to watch these guys play, interact with the players that have been here for a while, interact with the kids that have been here for a while, and just perform well. You have to commend the work ethic, and that's where I tip my hat to these veteran players who are just looking for an opportunity to revive some NHL minutes. And in the case of Victor Olofsson, he wants a contract next year, and so they're motivated. And when you have motivated hockey players, it's fun to watch. And results aside, it's good on these guys. And so I think since the trade deadline, the Flames did a really good job singling out these guys, bringing them in, and giving them opportunities. And these guys have ran with it. Results aside, again, it's what you wanted to see from veterans that you bring into your lineup.
At the same time, though, from a fan's perspective, it's also wildly frustrating.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Especially because you take a look at the guys and you're like, really, like Ole Mata, like, could we look back on this in 5 or 6 years and be like, we lost out on an opportunity to get a top 3 pick because Ole Mata was playing at a 63-point pace and Ryan Strome rejuvenated his career, and yes, there are young players making impacts on this team too. And the goaltending has been great, but a lot of these vets are like a big part, Zach Whitecloud. All these guys who are not going to be part of this team long term could be sacrificing a higher pick for the Flames. It would be one thing if it was like all the young guys. If Matt Bay-Gridden is scoring every game, Coronado's getting 2 points a game, and Parek is getting points on the power play every night, and Brustevich is producing. Then I think that's almost like, okay, it's the young guys that are kind of purely doing it. They're doing it on the backs of the young players. But because a lot of these vets are stepping up too at the same time, including a guy like Blake Coleman, who people were hoping would get traded, including myself in that mix. To see those guys are the ones that are kind of leading the charge. It is frustrating for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's got a double-edged sword. Like you're like, you like to watch it, but at the same time you're like, wait, hold on. We don't need the points though. Like Mata, could you go back to being the guy who scores 2 points a year just for a couple of months here? Like let us enjoy the bottom part of the standings and get that draft pick. So it's interesting. It's a weird thing to undertake to look at these.
Now, another positive way to look at it though is also these guys are increasing their trade value.
Yes, so that's where I was going to go there.
Yeah, like they're essentially throwing in as salary cap dumps for the most part, just trying to make money work. For the Anaheim Ducks, they got to sign a bunch of guys this offseason, and not having Ryan Strome on their books is a massive win for them. And then you had to throw Whitecloud and Victor Olofsson in the mix to make money work. And Olli Mata, I don't think it was a cap issue. I just think the Flames wanted a veteran D to come in. So
I think it was a contract issue on Utah side. They're at 50 contracts.
Okay. So yeah. So then once again, it's kind of a throw into the deal, because now all of a sudden, if Mata can play at a top 4 level for the next year or two here, the Flames can move him either next deadline or the deadline after that. Maybe get another second round pick, and all of a sudden it's 4 second round picks for Rasmus Andersson, or for Ryan Strome. They trade a 7th to get him, but maybe now they can acquire a 3rd round pick for Ryan Strome, and that's solid asset management. And then Zach Whitecloud, I mean, the rumors were that teams were throwing massive trade packages at the Flames for Whitecloud at the deadline. And if they're using words like massive and like big haul and all that kind of stuff, I would imagine that's either like a 2nd and a 3rd round pick, or maybe even a late 1st. So maybe you can include Whitecloud into a couple more draft picks to make the Rasmus Andersson trade return look even better. And then on top of it, you're signing these NCAA prospects like Jonathan Castagna and Abram Wieben, these guys, and all of a sudden it's just like, wow, these trades just continue to look better and better from a return perspective. So I mean, there are positives and negatives to all this.
Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth there, so I'm glad you picked up the slack there. Sorry, in the middle of a sneeze and had to mute the mic there.
How could you?
I know this is getting rough, but it's okay. We're almost done here. What's your thoughts though on the young players since the deadline? We got Matt Gritton's come back up. He's looked pretty good. Connor Zary got injured. He's back in the lineup. And what do you make of these defensemen? We've seen Brustevich take steps forward, steps back. Parekh scored a couple of goals. What have you made of the younger players, the kids as we call them, on this Flames roster since the trade deadline, with these opportunities opening up with no Mackenzie Weegar and no Anderson and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, the first guy I think of is Gritton, and I've just been thoroughly impressed by him.
He's been the best Flame.
Yeah, like 100%. And he's up to half a point per game on the season, which I honestly did not see coming. I thought he was going to spend basically the whole year up until the very end of the season in the American League, but he's too good for the American League. He's now turned into a good NHL player at age 20. And, I've talked about it a lot, but it's just the idea that he's basically as good a passer of the puck as he is a shooter of the puck, and he's got high-end abilities in both. There's been like a lot of talk about comparisons for him, and a couple guys I threw out there was like Philip Forsberg and Adrian Kempe, guys in that kind of 60 to 80 point range, both good shooters, both good playmakers, bigger guys. Like, I think that's the type of player we're going to see Gritton become. I've heard the Hosas and the Kucherovs and that kind of thing, and I think that's a little extreme to future Hall of Famers. But if he could be that kind of 60 to 70 point guy, I think he'd be really happy with that. And then, on defense, well, actually, another forward that's been playing really well is Coronado. I've been thoroughly impressed with him for a while now. He should have a lot more goals. Like, if you go look at his expected goals on Natural Stat Trick, I think based off that metric, he should have around 21 goals this year, and I think that's pretty accurate. And that's pretty good for a team that struggles mightily to score.
Yes.
But yeah, and then on the back end, I think Parekh and Brustevich are both taking steps in the right direction. I'm seeing progress. There are nights where they look really good, and then there are other nights where they get kind of caved in. Like last night, I mean, the whole team was bad against the Avalanche, but I thought Brustevich really struggled to keep up. He's got to really work on his speed. Kind of reminds me of Connor Zary in that sense, where he has all the talent, he has all the skill and the vision and the playmaking and all that kind of stuff. He's got to up the tempo and the pace. And then Parekh, it's great to see him scoring and getting that shot off a little bit more. The game against Anaheim was actually kind of scary for him. There were a few times where I'm like, oh my God, like he might be out for the year after that hit, but good on him for getting up and keeping on there. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think you got to be pretty happy with how some of the young players are doing. What are your thoughts on it?
My favorite thing about these young players and how they're playing is they've been given these opportunities, they've taken these opportunities, and they've played well, and they've learned from mistakes. But then they're continually getting these opportunities, so they're continually getting the opportunity to go back. Like we see Brstavich have some awful games, awful periods, but he's come back the next game and he's given another opportunity to improve on his skill set, improve that. So overall, I've liked the kids. You do like to see things like Perek moving the puck a little quicker, making decisions a little quicker. The foot speed, like you mentioned, of Brstavich a little quicker. Matt Coronado, you love to see him finish a little bit more. Zary, can you be a little bit more consistent with your effort game to game? Gridden might be the only one I don't have anything to say on that matter. So, excuse me. But it's just like, you just like watching them in the lineup, like seeing kids in the lineup, and you hope guys like Othman get more opportunities, or whoever else they might call up, Suniev, whoever else you might want to put in that thing. Anyone that they call up here to play in the last few games here, just hopefully they get opportunities as well, and they can take advantage of those opportunities, because you just like to see these kids play. And as much as we talk about those veterans coming in here to take advantage of their opportunities, you want to see that from the kids as well. And I think we have seen that overall. Watching these veterans get success, watching these kids have success, the question of Ryan Huska continually comes up, Robert. Does this last few games, have they changed your mind of how you think of Ryan Huska? Is it status quo for you? He is playing the kids like the fans wanted to see. But has the opinion of Huska, or should the opinion of Huska change what we've seen in the last few weeks here?
I think so. I do think that Huska should get a little bit more credit for playing the kids than he was before. Like I'm seeing Matt Gridden get a lot more ice time. I'm seeing him get more power play time. Like he's on that first unit now. He's after Michael Backlund wins the draw in overtime, Gridden's first over the boards, and he's getting a bunch of opportunities. He's in every shootout. So, like my big complaint there for Ryan Huska, this was like a few weeks ago, was just you just play the kids more. Like stop trying to like do everything in your power to win games and relying on veterans to play huge minutes and all that kind of stuff. And I think we're starting to see that now. So, there's the example of Gridden. Matt Coronado's getting a ton of ice time, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. They call up a guy like Brennan Othman, which has been nice to see, and he's gotten the game in some games, consecutive games in a row here. And Brstavich is playing a bunch. Perek's playing a lot more, and he's the number one quarterback on the first power play unit. So we're starting to see these guys play bigger roles, and we're starting to see them get more ice time. And I think that's going to continue here. It sounds like Kuznetsov is very close to returning. It wouldn't surprise me if he returned to the lineup on Thursday, which will be great. Hopefully they'll keep Perek and Brstavich in the lineup at the same time. I think they will, because playing Pahal on the offside doesn't really make sense, in my opinion.
It's bad.
It really is. Yeah, that was awful against Colorado.
He wasn't against Vancouver either. I'm sorry.
No, he wasn't. So, yeah, my guess is we'll probably see Kuznetsov come back in, and then, yeah, we're definitely going to see Suniev. That's going to happen here pretty shortly. Zary is hoping to get back in the lineup, so hopefully we'll see him. So, yeah, I mean, now that they're like really, really out of it, it is nice to see Huska kind of leaning on those young guys a little bit more, because now is the perfect time to do this. Now is the perfect time for them to learn and make mistakes and learn how to play at the NHL level. And I think it makes zero sense to not play them right now. So yeah, it's good to see. And yeah, just credit to Ryan Huska, because I know I was a little critical of him a few weeks ago on Afterburner about that kind of stuff. So yeah, got to give credit when credit is due.
Coaches are going to coach to win. But what I've noticed from Huska over this last while is his in-game adjustments haven't been just rely on the veterans. Examples are the times they've gone to overtime. You've seen Backlund take the face-off, and then they immediately change, and you're getting Coronado and Gridden as your first guys out over the boards. And then you're getting Perek following up the next shift. So you're giving these kids the opportunities in game. So I think he has changed his approach to these games a little bit. He's still trying to win games, because that's what NHL coaches are there to do. That's what they're built to do. That's their mindset, is they want to win everything. But in games, his adjustments have been I think a lot better. Have been, hey, maybe Perek does need to go out for this full 2 minutes of the power play. Maybe we do need to see Grid in overtime. Things like that. It's not automatic. Blake Coleman, Michael Backlund, you're going out for overtime. You're seeing these kids play. You're seeing them get opportunities. And I think one underrated part of Huska's game is he's actually a pretty good teacher of the game of hockey. We've seen it through his time in Kelowna, Abbotsford, Stockton, et cetera, et cetera. He can teach the game very, very well. He is very good at that kind of thing, and I think we see a little bit here from him as well. So I'm with you, Robert. I think he's not the world's greatest coach. He's not going to win the Jack Adams this year, but I think when you've seen the changes the Flames made at the deadline and kind of their switch in philosophy, you've seen the coach adjust to it. Maybe a little slower than some fans would have liked, but we're seeing it now, and it has to be a little bit commended here.
You know, when it comes to Huska, there's a couple of things that I think kind of go a little underappreciated. Like, one is when you listen to other teams' coaches talk about, like what challenges do the Flames present, or you hear other coaches talk about just the way the Flames play, every single one of them is extremely complimentary of Ryan Huska and the work that he's done with the team. And a lot of it comes across as genuine. Like, I don't think it's just like kind of filler coach speak, before, with cliches before a game or something like that. Like, these coaches like go out of their way to compliment Huska about like how structured the Flames are, how they're bought in as a team, how hard they are to play against, like all that kind of stuff. And, I think we got to kind of give Huska like a bit of a shout out for that type of stuff. I keep kind of wondering to myself, what does Ryan Huska look like as an NHL coach coaching a legitimately good team? Because he has not had the opportunity to do that ever since he became the head coach with the Flames. And I want to see what that looks like. And unfortunately, that's going to be a long ways away. We're talking 4 or 5 years away before this team is legitimately good again. And I don't know if Huska's going to last that long because coaches are just hired to be fired. But I don't know, man. Like, I get, this may sound crazy, but like I do get like some John Cooper vibes from him, just in terms of the players are always bought into what he's selling. It looks like he's built a really good culture. He seems like a great communicator. He doesn't seem like one of those coaches who you get sick of. Like, he's not Bruce Cassidy. He's not Daryl Sutter. He's not John Tortorella. He's not a guy who like really like gets under your skin after a while. It seems like he could be like a long-term option for this group. And I just wanted to point that out because I know like he does catch a lot of flack, and like I've been critical at times of him too, mainly just over use of young players. But at the same time, it seems like everybody around the game really likes what he does and respects what he does. It does seem like he's built a really good culture here. I just want to know, like, what does the team look like, and what does he look like as a head coach with an actual talented roster? And it's hard to say because we haven't seen that yet, and we're not going to see it for a while. But it's just kind of like one thing I wanted to bring up about Huska, because like I do think there are times when people are kind of unfairly hard on him.
Yeah, the people that play Huska hockey and he kills offense, I don't think that's it at all. This is a young coach in the league. We have to remember, like, this is year 3 of him coaching as a head coach in the NHL. So that plays into things a little bit. He's coaching a team that was built to win 5 years ago that never won 5 years ago. He's coached guys that wanted to leave the town. He's coached a lot of turnover. And so I think the way that the Flames need to approach Huska has been exactly what they've been doing with him. Give him what you expect from him and let him go do it, because back when Tampa Bay was in town, John Cooper did an interview, like he was very complimentary on Huska and how the Flames are bought in and how the Flames approach the game. And so it's just, this Flames team lacks the skill, like you mentioned, Robert. They lack the high-end skill. They lack the ability, the depth to match up against most teams in this league right now. And when you have that type of a roster, the coach can only do so much. So that's why I appreciate you bringing him up on this episode and being complimentary about his style and his approach over these last few games here. So hopefully the Flames can keep it going. Hopefully Huska can keep it going. We can see that down the road here, because if it is a John Cooper-esque type of thing, then and he gets a long tenured run with it, I think there could be some success at the end of the day. we got to build a roster that he could play a little bit more with, right? And that starts now as you're rebuilding through the draft and such and going forward here. So
yeah, I mean, just like look at the rosters that he's had to work with.
Like that first year, man, was just like that turnover was incredible.
Yeah, they make 4 or 5 trades in season. And like mainly, like I look at the forward group mainly. Like who are the studs? Who are the guys that it's like, whoa, like this guy is a great offensive player. There's a bit of
Huberdeau.
It should be Huberdeau, but he's been god awful. So he's certainly not one of those players. You had Tyler Toffoli in the 22-23 season. Yeah. Actually, that was Daryl Sutter, so that doesn't even count. See, it's literally been Nazem Kadri, and that's it. You have your Colemans and Backlunds of the world that can put up, 35, 40 points. You have your Frost and Farabees that put up 35, 40 points. But who are the drivers? Who are the capital D dogs, like top 50 player in the NHL kind of thing? The Flames haven't had anything close to that under Ryan Huska. So the fact that they've scored so little since he's been head coach, I don't think that's because of his coaching. I think it's a roster construction issue, and it's a lack of talent. Like I don't think you can deny that at all. And I mean, there are times, especially during losing seasons like this, where you're like, okay, can you loosen up a little bit and let the boys run? And it feels like that's kind of happened a little bit over the last few weeks. But at the same time, it's like he's trying to win games, and he's been given just an awful roster with no talent. And that's kind of how you have to go about winning games. Is you got to be super structured. You got to rely on your goaltending. So like I don't put all the offensive blame on Ryan Huska. Like I said, I think it's more of a talent issue, and it's something that they're addressing now, and they're moving in the right direction in terms of adding guys with high-end talent like a Matt Bay-Gridden and hopefully Ethan Wittenbach and Reshny, and then whoever they pick in the next 2 or 3 drafts here. But yeah, like I think he's doing a good job, and like I've always been pretty complimentary of him. It's just the last little while was like kind of young player usage while the team is completely out of the playoff race, but it does seem like he's starting to turn that around a little bit. So yeah, I think we got to cut the guy a little bit of slack here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Is he the world's greatest coach? Well, not yet, but you never know what comes down in the future here. Robert, kind of a Flames adjacent topic to kind of wrap up the podcast or podcast here today. The Toronto Maple Leafs have had a bad season as well. That's a terrible hockey club. It's been built pretty bad over the last few years, and the builder of that team was turfed this past week. Brad Treliving fired in Toronto. What do you read into it? Should Flame fans be joyful of this? How do you read the Brad Treliving era in Toronto and your reaction to Brad now being unemployed again?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I won't make it personal, but just from a strictly professional and just the job he did as general manager, I don't think if you're a Maple Leafs fan, you should not be surprised with what has happened, because everything Treliving did in Toronto, he essentially did in Calgary, where he was supposedly in on every single player, any big player that's available. We're hearing the Toronto Maple Leafs are in there, and Brad Treliving's in on everything, and he never pulls the trigger on something big. He overspends all of his draft picks and prospects on mediocre players that never make a difference. He did that with Carlo, and he did that with Scott Lawton. He did it with Dakota Joshua and Michelli and all these guys. He spent $1 million draft picks to bring these people in. They do absolutely nothing for the team. And all of a sudden they have no picks. They have no prospects. They have no future. And like the team's a complete disaster. And he did the exact same thing in Calgary. He gave up 1 million picks for Travis Hamonic. And like you go look at all of his deadlines, whether it's Curtis Lazar for a second, or Calle Yarncroke, or Ryan Carpenter, Eric Gustafson, Derek Forbort, Oscar Fantenberg. Like he just spends and spends and spends on guys who literally make zero difference. And he did the exact same thing in Toronto. And like all the Maple Leafs had to do, Brendan Shanahan and MLSE, all they had to do was just look at what he did in Calgary. He lost a superstar for nothing in Johnny Gaudreau. He lost a superstar for nothing in Mitch Marner. And that's more on Shanahan than Tree, but it did happen under his watch. And yeah, he's put the Maple Leafs in a horrible situation. They could lose like a number 6 or number 7 overall pick to Boston. Their 2027 first-round pick belongs to the Philadelphia Flyers, and if they have another bad season, all of a sudden that pick goes to Philly. And if they end up getting a top 5 pick this year, next year's pick is unprotected to Boston, and then the following year, 2028, is unprotected to Philly. So it's just Treliving has done such a bad job there. He did a bad job in Calgary, and this is like the least surprising news to me. I knew from the second they hired him, I knew that he was going to get fired soon because he's just going to do such a bad job. And that media market and those fans are a lot more critical than they are here in Calgary. Calgary's a very nice fan base, very nice media market. They put no pressure on Treliving while he was here. And I just had this feeling that he was going to screw things up, and that's exactly what he did. And obviously it sucks to see someone lose a job, but by all accounts, he's a fantastic guy and all that kind of stuff. So you do feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's like he did a really bad job there, and he did a bad job in Calgary. And, I wouldn't trust him, running a freaking hockey team, let alone, I wouldn't trust him at all. So it's just, I don't think he'll get another GM job. I think it's over for him. He'll probably get, maybe an assistant job or something like that somewhere else. But yeah, it's two markets that he kind of destroyed. So not surprised to see him go. And I actually think it's the best thing for the Maple Leafs to fire him. It was the best thing to happen to the Flames because Conroy is 100 times the GM that Brad Treliving is.
Brad's a nice guy, not a great general manager, and the Maple Leafs paid the price for it. I don't really have any thoughts outside of that, to be honest, on Brad Treliving and the job that he did for the Maple Leafs. I like when the Maple Leafs aren't good, so that part's fun for me. But I have no other thoughts really on it, Robert. It is what it is. It is what it is. Like when you walk two superstars to free agency and get nothing for them, whether it's your fault or not, it reflects poorly on you and your asset management. It really does. And that for me says it all. If he does get another general manager job, whoever the next big name free agent is, he's probably booking a plane ride out of there because Brad Treliving likes to walk this guy's free agency. So, you make your bed, you lay in it, and that's where the Maple Leafs are at this moment. I'm glad the Flames have moved on here.
And the Leafs are in trouble. Like I think they are right now.
There's
where
nothing there.
Well, there's not, and I think right now they are where the Vancouver Canucks were last season, where they have to make decisions on their best players. Their best players probably are going to want out. They have no prospects. They have no picks. The culture's off. Like they are the Vancouver Canucks of last year. And I think they're on a path to a full-on rebuild, like a tear it to the studs. You literally have nothing left kind of rebuild like Chicago and San Jose did.
Like a 10-year thing.
Literally. I think it could be a decade before they're good again. It's really ugly. And Kyle Dubas did not do a good job there. He's done a way better job in Pittsburgh. Shanahan did not do a good job. Treliving did not do a good job. Like it's the culmination of all those things coming together of just bad decision after bad decision after bad decision and holding on to the wrong core and building the wrong culture, all that kind of stuff. It's now added up to this point where they are screwed. They are so screwed. I don't really even think people on the hockey world understand how screwed this team is. I'm calling it 8 to 10 years before they're in the playoffs again.
It's a very real world where that team next year has a new general manager, new coach, and possibly new captain as well. Like there's a lot of smoke coming out of Toronto about Austin Matthews. What do you do with Nyes? What do you do with Riley? Like Easton Cowan might be the only piece there they can build around. Everyone else is probably going to be gone. But does Easton Cowan sign long-term? Can they convince Easton Cowan to be that? And is he a guy that you can build around?
Well, I think he maxes out as like a second-line winger. Like I don't think you're building around this guy.
Right?
He's
so
nice to have.
To your point, you are literally starting over. Your hope. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs need to do their best to win out here and make that draft pick into the teens and fall on that sword so they can get going on a rebuild somewhere else and get something for Matthews. Move him. Bring in your draft picks. Find a different head coach because Berube was not the good coach. Is a good coach, just didn't fit that team, didn't fit that style. And then they try to fit players into that core that they already had, and it was just a big mixed bag of whatever. Brad Treliving special where he falls in love with depth players, a coach who's really hard on his players, and your star players just can't pull it out at the end of the day. So I'm with you, Robert. I think this is going to be a long-term rebuild. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel for Toronto because they have literally spent everything to bring everybody. Like Fraser Minton's second line center in Boston right now, and they're going to get their first round pick from them.
Like, for Brandon Carlo.
There is a very real world where the Boston Bruins get all of those assets and they're picking 6 or 7 in this year's draft.
Yep, it's the Travis Hamonic trade all over again.
Yeah. But worse, because had the Hamonic, like that pick was a little further down in the first round. Like this could be a top 10 pick for Boston because you wanted a depth defenseman.
Yeah. The Hamonic trade did end up turning into Noah Dobson. So
that's true.
It was a disaster, but yeah.
There's no guarantee that pick would have been Dobson if the Flames picked, though, because Brad Treliving was picking, remember? So
yeah, exactly.
Who was the big bruising defenseman that was picked around there? Because that's where Brad Treliving would have gone. He would have gone for the big bruising size of a guy, because that's
how the Keegan Kanzig of that draft.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I were the Maple Leafs, I would do everything in my power to win all these games, give the worst draft pick possible to the Bruins. Like, hopefully you get that into the 8, 9, 10 range, and then you run it back next year and you try to make the playoffs, and because you're giving up your 2027 pick to Philly. So it's like you might as well go for it. You might as well try and make that pick, the worst possible, the least painful for your organization. And then, if you make the playoffs, great. If you don't, hopefully you're in the mucky middle, and then you start your rebuild. Because could you imagine what a disaster it'd be if, say they give up the 6th overall pick to the Bruins this year, and then next year's pick is top 10 and it goes to Philly, or it slides and it's unprotected in 2028, and that's a top 3 pick. It's just like, you're totally screwing yourself over from a draft pick perspective if you end up tanking now. So it's like they're kind of stuck with the group they have, and they almost just have to go for it because they're in such a bad position right now. All thanks to our boy Tree. Well done, Brad. Well done.
Great job. Robert, one thing that was not on our rundown that I have to get to before we close this podcast, it's Easter. Good Friday's coming quickly here. Easter is on Sunday. Are you a cream egg guy or a mini egg guy?
That's a great question. That we should have led the podcast with that topic.
It's the most important topic, so I left it to the end.
Totally. Yeah, I'm definitely a mini egg guy. I think mini eggs are like one of the most underrated chocolates / candy out there. I'm a massive fan of those. What about you?
Have you had the Cadbury bar with the mini eggs in it?
I have.
Oh,
outstanding.
Yeah, outstanding. I do like a good cream egg, but for me, there's a limit on how many of those you can eat. With a mini egg, you sit down with that family pack, or what they call a family pack, and before you know it, you're halfway through that thing and you feel fat because you've eaten all these candies. That's how mini eggs go. I think mini eggs are incredible. They are incredible candy.
It's the father pack or the John pack. It's not the family pack.
It's not a family pack, Mike. According to mini eggs, I am a family.
Yeah.
To all you listeners, a happy Easter to you all. However you celebrate, please do it safely. Enjoy the hockey this week. Robert and I will be back next week. Hopefully talk some more good Flames topics with you. As the Flames continue on the road trip, Vegas on the menu, Dallas on the menu. We'll see what else we can get from this Flames team. Anaheim on the menu. It should be a fun week in Flames Land. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for making us part of your podcast rotations, and enjoy the week.